And now, it's Ultimate Combat Radio with your host, Mike Stidham on 1280 and 97.5. The Zone, brought to you by Aztec Highway, WDFA.
All right. Well, I love the new intro. I hadn't heard that one before. Welcome to Ultimate Combat Radio. Mike Stidham here. If you're tuning in for the BYU game, you're on the wrong channel, man. They're over on 97.5. You can listen to them over there. You're not going to hear any Bronco Mendenhall here, and you probably won't hear any BYU
talk
fans in this show. I don't think we have any, but, you know, I hope they do well on the other frequency.
But stay here.
Stay here, man. We're going to talk a little mixed martial arts, the coolest sport on the planet. In fact, joining me on the program is our crack team of MMA professionals, the Kiser.
I'll be back in just a sec.
What's up, Mike?
Kiser, man, we're back. After last week's tumultuous show, we're back. We made it back.
We are back, and I am good for so many reasons tonight. I don't have to give out the call-in number. I don't have to give in the text-in number. It's 90 degrees in Salt Lake City at the end of September.
Oh, buddy.
It's Friday.
And there's no tension.
And Bob and Joe are back.
And I'm going to spill the beans a little early here. Your crew, Will Bernales, is going to join us on the show.
Will Bernales is going to be on the show on our 6:30 segment. So
I think for the last year, every week, when we need a guest, I'm like, hey, what about Will Bernales? Let's try Will Bernales. I've been trying to get him on here for a year, and I'm excited. We finally pinned him down. How'd you do it?
I usually text him, and he usually texts me back on Sunday afternoon and says, when is it? This time I just called, and I got him.
This doesn't surprise me. That's awesome. Kid is a martial arts genius, but a little on the scatterbrain side, right?
I think that's fair to say.
Okay, all right. Well, now, of course, Bob and Joe are back from Denver. You guys are out causing hate and discontent at the UFC 135. How are you doing?
Oh, good. I'm glad to be back, man. 2 weeks off and ready to go.
Bob?
It's hard to be back. All these vacations and trips, I'm beat.
You guys have been on one trip after the next. All right, so now, Robertina, this is typically your job, which Brandon Kiser dropped the ball on last week. If anybody wants to join us on the show, how would they go about doing that?
They can call us at 405 or 670-1280. Text us at 53318. Text in zone and then whatever you have to say. Or get on us at facebook.com/Ultimate Combat Radio.
Okay, so what we would like to have you do is participate in the show, and what we do is every week we have a poll question. This week's poll question is, if of all the boxers out there, and this is kind of in response to the debacle of that boxing had a couple weeks ago, where
the cheap shots
too big, it was just boxing is just on such a rapid decline, on such a downhill slide. Even the boxers are jumping ship. They want to come do MMA now. A lot of them do, and a lot of them are rumored to have fights in the works that they're going to be coming over. So of all the boxers out there that would make the transition to MMA, who do you think would be the most successful, have the best chance at success? So call us with your answer and tell us why you think that. Joe, I'd like to pick your brain a little bit. What do you think on that?
Man, that's a hard one. First of all, we don't want any of those guys. I don't think. Cheap shot. We don't do cheap shots.
No, we have the Diaz brothers.
Yeah, that's enough. I don't know. I have to say Pacquiao.
Oh, well, I didn't even think of him because he's not coming.
No.
He's pretty much well entrenched in boxing, but, you might be right. But here's the thing. Some of these guys have got to have some wrestling background. They can't just be pure boxers all their lives. I have to imagine, because they're so similar in terms of the training regimen for kids, growing up, that I would guess it's something. So that's who I'd like to find out if any of these guys have any wrestling background, because that's going to give you, heads and shoulders above the rest, an advantage coming over. Because boxing, it's so different when you don't have to protect your feet. So do you know anything about any boxers? Got any wrestling background, Brandon?
I do not know any boxers who have a wrestling background, nor do I know enough about any particular boxers to weigh in on this subject. However, I do think in general, if I were going to contribute something, I think the heavier weight classes would do better, just because
they got a punching chance.
They got heavy hands. They got more likely to knock their opponent out, and they're going to be going up against guys who are less likely to throw kicks and use athletic things like high flying takedowns.
Unless you're James Tony going against Randy Couture.
Kiser,
I knew
with
you
the
were going to say
stuff.
that, Joe.
But look, man, you're talking about James Tony coming in fighting one of the best ever. Right off the bat, that was stupid. Come in and fight some tomato cans, or fight some guys that are new to the sport like you are, and work your way up to fighting the Randy Couture's of the world. So I think you have to put James Toney on the list. He's a guy that you have to think would be a big guy with a puncher's chance. And at least now he's no longer a virgin to the sport. He's been there once, and I think he might have a good sense of what he has to work on.
Agreed.
Who do you think, Mike?
Well, I really think the best athlete is what's going to really be the key to me. And the best athlete that's being kind of talked about right now is probably Roy Jones Jr., although he's a little bit older. He's in his 40s, but he's a good athletic prospect. And so athletes, they understand hips and all those little things that you won't have to learn, about defending your legs and that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go with Roy Jones Jr. That's my pick.
I think Roy Jones Jr. is an awesome pick. Anderson Silva's, probably the best MMA fighter in the world right now, and I think he fights so similar to Roy Jones.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, Roy Jones is like the boxing version of him, so with a little bit of takedown defense, maybe he'd have some success.
Do you really? And his hands are so accurate. I mean, he's such an accurate puncher.
Do you really think that there are boxers that have wrestling background? Because look at the kids in your gym, the boxers. They want nothing to do with wrestling, and at the young age.
I think there are. Yes. I think some freaks out there have done cross training. But yeah, you're right. The guys in my gym, the boxing group, they're boxers, man. They don't want anything to do with anything else. But you'll see that, the people that cross train, they're the ones that are going to be successful. Robertina, you asked me, I'm going to fire it back at you. Who do you think?
I don't watch boxing.
Klitschko.
What? I don't even know what that means.
He's Russian.
He's a Russian
boxer.
Robertina's Russian, so I
am not. I don't even know any boxers. The only one I know
Just say
of
Klitschko.
Is Mayweather, only because I think we watched him at your house once.
And then we went to Wendover?
Yeah.
All right.
So, yeah.
Let's forget that.
That's
all right. Well, I got a new segment I'm gonna bring onto the show. It's called the Badass of the Week, and we've been talking about some badasses of the week on the show here, because there was the one guy that was on the subway and someone was getting mugged, and he used some jiu-jitsu that he had learned from watching UFC, and so Dana White kind of gave him a little award. And then there was the time, was it John Jones?
John Jones and his trainer. Yeah.
So that would be the Badass of the Week, but it doesn't necessarily have to be MMA related. But I saw this on, believe it or not, on Inside Edition. I didn't watch Inside Edition, but I was sleeping. I woke up and there it was. So there's this guy. His name's John. He's a UCLA student. He's going to college, and he told his parents he was going to spring break in Egypt, which you thought, well, that's kind of a weird place to go to on spring break, but cool. I guess all the kids are going there. He gets to Egypt and he hitchhikes to Libya.
That's dangerous in itself.
He hitchhiked to Libya, and when he got there, he joined up with some rebel forces that were fighting against Muammar Gaddafi, because he thought, you know what, I learned about in school about people that their freedom, and these guys are really fighting for their freedoms. And so he took up arms with them, and at first they thought he was full of it. They go, man, you're not going to fight with us. And sure enough, he did. He got into some skirmishes with them, and so they really had bonded with this guy. And so after one particular skirmish, they were back kind of bonding and talking about who their favorite pop star was. And to a T, every one of those guys said that Justin Bieber was their favorite pop star.
Who else would it be?
And they all had pictures of Justin Bieber on their telephones about. So anyway, I thought that was kind of funny. So what a badass, man! He just picked up and went over, and now he's back at UCLA and kind of a cool kid on campus.
Man, that takes some guts to go over there. I don't think I could do it.
Oh man,
it does take some guts. I think we'd be remiss without mentioning at least. An Ultimate Combat, I guess you could call him. He kind of reached legendary status because he had been on the show, and his fight was, in most people's minds that had been around the show for any length of time, his fight with Lima Pule was really the fight that symbolized UC. And Phil Allred is who I'm talking about. He passed away a couple days ago. It was a really sad day for the Ultimate Combat. And, after he fought, he stopped fighting. He was always in the audience. He was just a great big guy. Big sweetheart of a guy. I don't really know the details surrounding his passing, but it was, it was a sad moment. I wanted to recognize that.
It seems like it hit hard in the MMA community. You see a lot of guys talking about it right now, and a lot of guys are hurt. So
yeah, it really was, and it's simply because he was a really nice guy, and it was in a situation when he fought on our show that was surrounded with controversy. It was one time where the show burst out into literally a riot. It was people punching, and Phil got punched over my shoulder. And I jumped on top of him to just protect him because all these guys were trying to kick him. And I was able to pull him. Back then we were in a boxing ring. I was able to pull him to the side of the ring, and I hit him underneath the ring. And we heard people going, "Where'd they go, man? Where'd they go?" And they go, "I think they went that way." So we just sat under that ring there, me and him holding each other until the coast was clear. So that's my story about Phil Allred, and he will be sorely missed. And I just wanted to maybe, just to acknowledge his passing. So let's talk about Ricky Lundell was supposed to be on the program tonight. Robertina, what happened?
Well, he couldn't fly. He was supposed to fly through New Jersey.
So, no, wait a minute. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu and he can't fly?
Apparently not. I know. So
you don't need a weapon when you're a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Look, this guy graduated high school at 15.
And he can't fly.
He can't fly.
I know. It's crazy. No, he was out in Boston training. Joe, how do you say his last name?
Loazon?
Yeah, him.
That guy?
He was out there training with him, and he couldn't get a flight back, so he flew to Vegas instead, and he's actually flying right now. He's in the air on his way back here.
Well, I didn't want to kind of let this opportunity to talk about him because he's a local phenom, and he really is kind of one of those guys that outside of the state of Utah, he's kind of a celebrity, but within the state here, he's kind of Clark Kent. Not a lot of people they don't really recognize him around here, but he has accomplished some really phenomenal things. He was the youngest black belt in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu in North America. He was awarded his black belt, I think, at 18, 19?
19, I think.
And, that in and of itself is pretty phenomenal, and he was definitely deserving of that black belt. And Brandon Kiser grappled him in a match once, and he's good. He's the real deal.
He's top-notch,
He beat the top kid in my school in 17 seconds, I think, with a standing arm bar in a competition that we had. So, phenomenal kid. He was recruited to Iowa to wrestle, and he never wrestled in high school, which that just doesn't happen. It was the only person that ever had been done that. So we were looking forward to having him on the show. It didn't happen, so maybe we can get him on. But we were able to get even a better guest, and Will Bernalis. Maybe you can kind of tell the folks about Will and what we can expect to have an interview with him.
Oh, I'm looking forward to talking to Will. He's my instructor, as well as Brian Yamasaki's and a lot of the other local MMA coaches and fighters that have been on the scene for a long time here. So I think at 6:30 we're going to have a conversation with him.
Looking forward to it, and I've wanted to get this guy on the show, as I said earlier, on the show for quite some time. Looking forward to that. Once again, I want to remind you about the poll question. Which boxer would have the best chance in mixed martial arts? I'd love to have you weigh in on that. And Robertina, give out the numbers one more time before we take a break.
45670-1280, or text us at 53318. Text in zone and then your choice, or tell us on Facebook.
All right, good stuff. We're going to be talking to Bob and Joe about what went down at the UFC when we come back.